Alrighty. All right, so I am back for yet another round of coding. Might actually be my last for a couple of weeks, maybe even a little bit longer. I'm about to get a little bit busy with some other stuff, so we'll see where this goes. And so anyway, um, actually, let me maybe make a post over to Facebook, and I'll tell you what I'm getting ready to do. So today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to implement the weapon selection there in the Armory and I'm gonna utilize the UISceneState. So now, after I got done yesterday, or in the last video, yeah, it was yesterday. Wow, already. I went through and did some updates, some cleanup, some rearranging, a little bit of renaming. Added some stuff, and then I went through and converted all of the scenes, or the particular scenes that I needed to for all of that UI navigation to use the UI state machine that I've created. Um, so I'm actually going to, so today before we get into doing the armor, I'm going to do a quick review of all of that. Shouldn't take but a couple of minutes, and then we'll take a look at what the one of the original states look like before the conversion. I mean, they were all pretty much the same. And then we'll take a look at what they are now using the UI scene state. So they are uh, pretty good. I can't seem to find my oh, there we go, my channel. Ta-da! So anyway, the so yeah, the uh, everything seems to be working pretty well. I'm actually quite happy with where it was. In fact, I didn't actually intend to use that code that I originally started writing for the scene state for it, and but I figured I'd go ahead and see, well, what can we actually pull out of this and do there instead of just go ahead and do it all over. And a lot of the code ended up being pretty solid. So I was pretty happy when I went into the let's see, yep, and we're up on Facebook. So let me get switched back over here. So let's take a quick look back over at scene state. So now what I've done is I've added uh, some default dispatch tables to handle some common things that are really needed just to kind of let me test the navigation between all the scenes, make sure that that's working the way that it should be. Still be able to go in and look at the scenes, then go back and go through the program. Makes it really easy for testing. So we've got three of them that are being used now. Which ones of these actually stay and kind of go is going to be dependent on what I end up doing with some of these scene states. But most of them don't actually have a whole lot of logic, along with like chumps and credits don't have much. Maybe some subpage navigation and stuff. High scores is just formatting it. So there's not a whole lot of that there. So then I also actually eliminated the button dispatch table where you specified the ID and the scene. Instead, now it's actually baked into the in the image or to the button object. So when I do the click handling, I just actually call into that instead of just looking at into another table. So I've got everything right there. And of course, the init scene, which adds our layers, does our constructing of the layers, scene initialization, adding our buttons. So I did update some of that to check to see if the value is 0. So if it's null or 0, it'll skip adding the buttons, and of course, same thing with the text and everything else, because not all of the UI scenes or the scenes that'll use UI scene state are going to actually have those. Some of them have custom stuff. Um, so all that's been updated. I did add some additional text rendering stuff so that I can actually support drawing the bigger text in like the title scene and the navigate and the active game menu as I've called it. And we got our update here, which is just kind of handling dispatching the events, kind of getting them from the control or searching the buttons and checking the keyboard. And this is actually just kind of temporary. My cigarette went out. Wow. Until I get as I mentioned before, until I get the input manager, and then some of this will actually most of it will go away except for maybe some of the sub dispatching. Updating our cursor position, which is nothing, and then we've got our event dispatcher, our main event dispatcher here, which if the event dispatch table is null, then it just goes ahead and skips all that otherwise it goes on. And same thing for the button, but I've made some additions to this. In addition to the callback pointer, which is called from here, it actually checks to see if the button is disabled or not. And if the button is disabled, then it just goes ahead and skips, dispatching that event, that click event. And then of course we got the keyboard stuff, which I wrote during the last video, so that should be pretty well covered. And we've got some helper functions here for exiting the state, going to the next state from here, so that's helpful. And then of course our helpers for adding the buttons. So now before the high score or the scenes were converted over, this is pretty much what their kind of starting point was for pretty much everything. You had use the general scene state with all of your scene state on enters and exit functions and memory initialization, but it also had to do some stuff all on its own, which is kind of common across all of the scene initialization here, which you expect to be initializing some type of data or whatever, not just delete it. The And then of course, and in this case we did because we want to format all of the numbers and pull those from the high score table. Then drawing the text, which was kind of specific to it, which is now as part of the scene instance. And then our update, which was this boilerplate. That's probably would have gone away anyway, but just not anytime soon. Now we only have to replace it once. So and then of course the text and all of that. So and now if you take a look at high score, it's really just data. I mean, the whole scene is currently defined in data, so there will be one function that this will replace, and that will be the init scene, possibly even in load scene data, which is probably a better choice for that. And that'll actually handle pulling everything out of the table and then formatting everything, and that's really the only function that I need. I've got a bummer. Not used to that happening. My cigarette went out, and I still haven't lit it. So where was I? So anyway, it needs to format the final score and all of that. I still have some work to do with that. That's why you see the minus signs at the end of it, or the hyphens at the end of any of that text. So that's pretty much. I'm not going to look at Armory because that's actually we're going to be diving into that anyway. And there's a couple of things that I've done in there. And here I've added the key bindings for the title scene. And then handlers for go to the options, high score, chumps, whatever. I could probably condense that down, but why? Not really going to worry too much about that. Oh, and one of the other things that I did do is I updated the button image so that if the ID has the high bit set, then it's disabled by when it's created rather than enabled by default. So that actually helps when we take a look at that. Anyway, so I'm going to take a look at the way that the Armory is right now, and I'll tell you exactly what, or give you an idea of what I plan on doing with it. Let's see, let's do that, and we'll visit the Armory. Okay, so now I've updated the Armory a little bit. I've added or switched to the what I was originally going to do with the highlighted versions of it. So I moved the you have X amount of dollars or whatever into the kind of the info text, and then it just says, gives you an idea of how to get started. Start by selecting a weapon above, and then of course it'll clear this out, which I'm not going to do today. I'm not going to give away like kind of the capabilities of each of the weapons, but yeah, we'll maybe next time. But what I want to do today is the weapon selection. So, and the way that I want that to work is that when you start up or when you first come into the Armory. In fact, let me move over here to this so you can see it better. So these weapons up at the top. So when I go into the Armory, I don't want any of the weapons to be selected yet because I want this message to be popped up or be there first, kind of give the player an idea of what to do. But and then of course you can't have that and the description of the weapon and the price of it all in there along with that. That just gets cluttered. So I don't want any weapon to be selected when you come in. But when you do select a weapon, I want it to kind of highlight a little bit, and that's why I had the grade versions of these on there before. They were meant to represent the the weapon or it's unselected state. Unfortunately, I am really at the tip of memory usage at the moment. I don't have very much memory left, and so what I decided to do is switch over to using uh, the colorized versions of them, which would have been the selected state. Um, and when they're selected, I'm going to change the back, just change the background, and still have it outlined, around the weapon itself. Um, so that it indicates that it's selected. So that's all that's going to do. But and of course, when that is selected, I want all of the text to be displayed and the information about it, so you can buy and sell. And then when I select a different weapon, I want that of course that's selected state to kind of go away, and then the new one to be selected, or to show that state as well. So in this case, what I decided to do is take the images of the weapons and bake them into the scene texture, the background texture. And in this case, which is and that actually saves a ton of memory, because this scene texture, without the Armory title at the top, and without the text and the buttons on it, compresses down to about 900 bytes. Whereas just the sprites for the weapons would have been few K, several, well, at least several, at least three. So there's a significant savings there in that regard. So anyway, what I've done is I've created some much what ended up being smaller images code-wise, because they're all compiled, of the individual weapons, and all it is kind of a stencil that just draws around it, rather than drawing the actual weapon itself. And that actually saves a lot of drawing. So I may change these to be a little bit more intricate, so I have less actual drawing. That'll actually make them smaller. And interestingly enough, those came in smaller than they would have been if I used a non-code version. If I just used a plain with my connection. Yep, there we go. I seem to be having problems with this connection, so I do apologize. I'm not sure what type of an effect that's having. Haven't done these enough to have encountered that, but it may be something that I may have to may get in the way. So anyway, let me get back over here into some coding. Everything seems to be good for now, I guess. Wait a second. Let me change this. There we go. All right. And there we go. Okay, so let's take a look at what I've done with Armory in this regard. So anyway, the way that I want that to work is that I'm going to take advantage of the kind of the functionality that I've implemented over the last couple of days, particularly in how the button works. So the way that I've set this up is, I've converted it over to be a UISceneState, and in the button list I've added 6 entries, one for each button, where the enabled state of the button uses an empty image, so nothing actually gets drawn. So it's you wouldn't even know that it was there. And so but the disabled state shows the selected state of that button, um, which is just going to be that kind of stencil that draws around it to make it look like that it is selected. Um, Now, and of course, in this case, it's all of these are calling the same function, on weapons selected. Um, and then in our initialization scene, we actually have some additional stuff that formats what I'm using now is a score, not the amount of money that the player actually has, and then does some additional drawing on this. And I don't know if I'm going to need this later on, but we'll see, because uh, I'm not sure how the navigation or displaying the new text for this thing is going to go. So this may all get wrapped up. Anyway, so what we're going to be concentrating on right now is on this on weapons selected function right now, which is way down here, and I'm going to do that selection behavior that I was just talking about. Um, should be able to do it just from this function. So let me see here. In fact, let's do a quick test and see what that um, that looks like. Now, one of the updates that I did, which will come in handy here, is that the um, uh, the button click dispatcher uh, puts the now it puts the address of the button that was clicked in the U register and passes on. So when I get this, I'll actually have an address, the address to that button, so I won't actually have to do anything else with it, and I can actually manipulate its state here. So I think that's what I'm going to do here. So that's in U. So we're going to stick U into Y, and then we're going to just what was it? Button image object disable. Actually, let's save the stage because I'm not sure what that's expecting on the way back. I need to check that out. Pretty sure it's nothing at this point. So, and what this should do is these button definitions that I've got up here. This is to give me a good chance to test to make sure that these are are right too. So these kind of define the dimensions, the position, starting at X and Y position, and the width and the height. Now these are only 30 because I'm not drawing the whole bevel. I'm not actually redrawing that, but I have to do it on the edges because if I mask it, I don't get a speed hit, but they become too big, and that's I want to keep that down. So actually adding data to it actually made it smaller. So luckily we're kind of working with a static environment, so nothing background isn't changing or anything. So that should. Oh, I did not click that, and I'm talking up a storm. Uh, so I guess what we should be able to actually do, now that I think about it, is when we get that when we get into that on weapon selected function, we can kind of save that off, disable it. And then the next time it's clicked, we can get that one that we saved and enable it, and then disable the one that we're getting, and then save that there. And that actually probably take care of most of what I was looking at doing today. So this should be really really easy. So let's do a new game and type in something fancy. All right. Yep, there we go. So that's what it looks like selected. Now I just have to manage going between all of them. And of course, at that point, there's no real reason not to kind of go back to that help or that info page, I guess. I mean, if you didn't actually pay attention to the first time, it's like you probably don't even read your terms of service on Apple. So, but okay, so that looks pretty good. We've got that's what they're going to look like. Might go in and change the color. Might actually give a couple of these scenes a custom palette because I'm using the same palette across the whole place. Still looks great. Great, the whole game still looks great though. So let's switch back over here to Armory. And let's see. Actually, you know what? You know what? We are going to want to initialize this every time. Otherwise, next time we go into it, it's likely going to blow up. All right, so let's okay, JSRBD convert. Whatever other data this is going to be. Oops, I can just do this. Yeah, get fancy on it. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. Let's see. Okay, yeah, we'll get that into Y because we don't need to preserve Y here at this point. Let's see, and then we'll go and enable this. And you should never be empty. You should never get clicking. I mean, unless you call it directly. I mean, if you're doing that kind of stuff, that's kind of dumb. All right, let's store you. That should work. What? Oh, duh. Just forgot a label, man. Oops. I'm making. Ah, caught it before the build was done. So yeah, I'm really, really low on memory. All right. And we'll just do that. D. All right. Perfect. That was easy. Now I have to figure out what I want to do with the how to get the text up there. So yeah, all that work made doing this something like this real easy. I mean, I did it in a few lines of code. Um, so yeah, I guess I mean that all of that work is certainly um, paid off in this, and this comes in handy for like the campaign mode that I've got in mind that I've been working on. This is just actually one portion of the game. Might not be able to do everything as a single binary though. I don't see that as I just don't see that happening. But having it as a separate binary would be pretty cool. So and of course, I'll have to handle the updating the buy and sell. I mean, if the player doesn't have any of this particular item, um, then obviously they don't have any to sell. And if they don't have enough money, they can't buy. So I mean, I'm just keeping those disabled for right now. Um, but I wonder what else I could do. I mean, because that's wow, that's boring. That was just too easy, man. That really was. Let's see. I guess I could clean it up a little bit. There. So pretty much that's I guess it. I mean, once it's done, I guess I'll go draw the text. I mean, I guess that's something that I'll have to take a look at, but I'm not going to do that in this video. In fact, I think that's going to be it. I mean, that's really short. I figured this would take at least a few extra, few minutes more than what it did, but I guess not. Um, so now I really just need to build like a table of descriptions and stuff, and that's kind of really boring. And then select it, print it, and do it. Maybe I'll just do all the prep work for the next video, and maybe I'll do one later in the week. I've got some extra time, or should have some extra time on Friday to actually do one final video. Maybe I'll work that into that. Maybe that'll be the final one. Who knows? But I guess I'm just gonna cut off now, and I don't know. Maybe I'll come back later and do a little bit of extra work on it on something else. Who knows? But anyway, I'm out of here. Have a good one.